There comes a time in everyone's life when they're faced with a challenge, a fork in the road, if you will. You have a big choice to make. Will you stay or will you go? Well, today I'm going to share with you my story, the fork in my road that led me to where I am today, sharing this podcast with you now. Thanks so much for being here. I am truly grateful that you have chosen to be with me today. Now, a quick disclaimer, if any of the information shared in today's episode is triggering for you, I invite you to get the support that you need. You are not alone. There are people out there who can help you. All right, let's dive in. We all grew up watching fairy tales featuring Prince Charming, but not everyone gets the happy ever after they had in their dreams. So what are you supposed to do when your fairy tale ends? When everything you thought you knew falls apart? Welcome to Happily Ever After the Affair. I'm Kiri, a confident communication coach for women, sharing my own experience after infidelity to help women learn to forgive and find their way forward to a life and relationship they love. I will never forget the day that my husband aggressively pushed the door to our bedroom where I was with our 4-month-old son. He was laughing at me. I was bawling my eyes out. My son was crying, and all I wanted was to be left alone. This was a turning point for me. We were very disconnected in our partnership. Neither of us was listening to each other. We were both at a breaking point. I had never seen him treat me this way before. It was the point where I knew that things were not okay. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew that something needed to change. After our emotions calmed down, I went to him and I told him he needed to see a counselor. I knew he had some sort of anger issue. Something was going on that he needed support with. He said, okay, if you think I need it, I will go. But you need to go and see a doctor. So I made an appointment with my doctor as soon as I was able to. She wasn't my usual doctor, but there I was with my 4-month-old baby boy, bawling my eyes out and telling my doctor what I was feeling. Turns out what I was feeling was not normal. And although it was extremely common, it was not normal. And I needed to do something about it. So right then and there, I was diagnosed with severe postpartum depression. I was started on antidepressants and directed to make an appointment with a counselor to work through my feelings. I could never have imagined what came next. But before I get into that, stick around to the end of the episode to hear the one thing that was said to me the day before everything happened, and the one thing I will never say again. All right, so it was 10 a.m. on March 25th, 2019, to be exact. I was sitting on the couch, folding washing. My 4-month-old son was in his cot having his morning nap, and my daughter was at play center, so like a play group with a friend of mine. My husband came home early. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting him home. It was nice to see him, or so I thought. I could see concern on his face. He looked worried. I was getting concerned. He came up to me and said, I did something. My heart dropped. I was confused. What do you mean? What did you do? You're scaring me. He dropped to his knees and his eyes welled up with tears. I was with someone else. I was shaking, confused, shocked. I could genuinely not comprehend where this had come from, how it was even possible. Why was he telling me this now? How could the love of my life, the father of my kids, the man I have called my best friend for over 10 years, how could he have done this to me? How could I possibly come back from this? Now, you might be wondering why I'm sharing this. Why did I design an entire podcast around this topic? Relationships' biggest fear. I mean, come on, right? And the reason is simple. This is not only a story of heartbreak, this is also a story of hope. My husband's affair changed my life and my marriage for the better. Yes, you heard that right. I came back from this. We came back from this. And we are much better off now than we were before. Now, don't get me wrong. After that moment, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I had no family around. Where would I go? I did end up calling a friend, and I did take the kids and left. Well, I thought about what had just happened and how I processed what I was going to do next. Let me tell you, that was the worst night of my life. Nobody got any sleep. The 4-month-old baby wouldn't stop crying. I wouldn't stop crying. And the 2.5-year-old, well, she didn't sleep either. I called my husband at about 2 a.m. and told him to come and fix his mess. I didn't know exactly what that would look like or how that would happen, but I knew that this was not what I had signed up for. Looking back and reflecting on that night, I honestly don't know why I left. And I'm pretty sure it's simply because I thought that's what you should do. When somebody tells you something like that, you don't just stick around, right? But I should have. The leaving part certainly didn't last long, and it was the big realization that I needed that this was not what I wanted. This was not what I signed up for, and this is not what I'm willing to have in my life. At this point, my husband had had one therapy session. So he had a contact in the morning once everyone was awake. I insisted that he call her and make an appointment. We were officially in crisis. We needed help. We did not know how to get out of this on our own. The therapist, she was not surprised by what she had learned. Clearly, it had affected my husband's inner workings and had been the trigger for the anger that we had seen before. I won't pretend that our journey out of this was easy. It was far from easy. But that day, we made a choice. We decided that this was not going to be our life, that we were not going to be defined by this moment. Through the support that we sought, both together and separately, we made a choice that we would never let this happen again. We never wanted to feel so disconnected from each other that we would look somewhere else to have our needs met. We decided what we wanted our marriage to look like, and we moved forward from there. Now, fast forward 5 years. We are now more connected than we have ever been, even before kids. We openly and honestly communicate about everything. We share our deepest, darkest secrets. We communicate our feelings on a regular basis. And although we don't always get it right, and on that note, does anybody? We are 100% committed to being authentic, to being our true selves always. We no longer fear judgment. We no longer fear saying the wrong thing. We just have no more fear. If you can't be yourself with your husband, if you can't express your needs, if you can't ask for what you want, what you need with your partner, who else can you do that with? At the start of this episode, I mentioned that there was a phrase, a common phrase that was used in my direction the night before all of this came out. But before we get to that, reviving relationships can be challenging at the best of times, am I right? But knowing what to do when you throw infidelity into the loop, well, that's a whole other story. Learning to rebuild, forgive, and invite in more love, compassion, and fun, well, that's just darn right hard without the support of someone who's been through it too. If you would like to learn more about the support I can offer you, feel free to visit my website, www.kirihoney.com, or follow me on social media. I will pop the links down below in the show notes for that. If you're tired of waiting for things to be different and you're ready to take action to ignite the flame inside of you and unlock your voice so that you can revive your relationships through authentic and empowered communication, well, I invite you to book a 15-minute coffee chat with me by heading to www.kirihoney.com/coffee chat. That's www.kirihoney.com/coffee chat. I look forward to catching up with you soon. So what was that common phrase that was said to me the night before all of this came out? Well, first, here's a little bit of context. So you remember that I was just diagnosed with severe postpartum depression. Then, a couple of days after that, our beloved family cat came home and he looked like he had been poisoned. So my husband decided to put him out of his misery. Now, we had friends visiting us at the time, and this friend gave me a hug as I was crying, upset about the depression, upset about the cat. And he said, "It can't get any worse." Well, by jingoes, the next day it got a whole hell of a lot worse. So the next time you go and say to someone, "It can't get any worse," or you hear those words playing in your head, I invite you to hold your tongue, because this too shall pass. The good, the bad, the ugly, none of it lasts forever. So you must make the most of every single day and take actions that lead you to a life you love to live. Thanks again for joining me for today's session. I really hope you enjoyed hearing my story and it helps you on your own journey. See you next time.